Most new agents think that their broker is going to give them their first client. All right, we're going to tell you the real story. This is the real story with Adam and Sherry, the coaching edition. And this is where we talk about all things real estate, focusing on agents. We're focusing on professionalism and passion. And we know that when you get those two things right, then you'll be able to have a profitable business that will sustain you through any market. All right, today's topic, we're talking about who you market to and who you do business with. Sherry, let's talk about it. How you doing?
I'm good. You didn't introduce us.
I,
Nobody
I,
knows who we are.
I'm still getting used to this new format and how to
I,
enter it.
I'm Sherry Hutchens.
Hi, Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian, and
Hi,
this is two.
Adam.
We're two broker associates with combined 40 years of experience, and we are, yeah, we're talking all things real estate.
It feels a little like a Monday, but it's a Wednesday.
It is. I'm going to figure out the best opening for this one to differentiate it from the other one so that we know who we're talking to and what we're talking about.
Maybe you need cue cards.
Maybe I do.
I don't expect you to remember everything.
I may be a real estate professional, but I'm not a podcast professional. So we're just kind
You,
of
you
winging
get
our
it.
way through this.
All right. I don't think anybody's complaining, so I think we're okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's try and re-tee this up a little bit more clearly after all of that.
Okay.
Today we are focusing on spheres of influence, your market field, a little bit about CRM, how you meet new people, how to stay in contact with the people you know. So it's really kind of the core of your business and who you're going to do business with. Oftentimes, real estate agents or brokers start their training with how to do business, like reading the forms and knowing how to write a contract and some of the legal aspects. And really, you need to know that before you do anything else. But for the most part, if you've started a conversation with us, you already have your real estate license. And if you don't, this episode is a little bit premature. Go ahead and listen to it, but that you really need to work on getting your license first.
Mhm.
But what getting your license doesn't tell you is how to do your business and how to win business and who to win business with. And so that's what this episode is about. And we're doing this early in this process because it evidence shows that it takes you about 6 months of active marketing to get your first transaction. For some, they get really lucky, somebody knows them, some other relationship, and it happens sooner. Some people try really hard and they can go for a year and not get their first transaction. And even, regardless of when your first transaction is, it's not indicative of whether you're going to be successful as an agent or not. Obviously, the sooner you can start doing transactions, the better. But you got to start that marketing clock, so to speak, as soon as possible in a responsible way. And so that's why we put this way up early, even before we talk about some of the other aspects of real estate.
Yep, I agree with all of that.
So we have our database, the names of past clients or potential clients. And I'm curious, when you started in real estate, who did you decide to market to? Like, what was your marketing sphere?
So I was told the same thing that all agents, new agents are told, and that is you should mark to every single person you know that you have an address for or an email address for. There were no email addresses when I first got into business. I came from an industry that had email, and I went into real estate, which was still in the dark ages. So every person that I knew, I put in my database. My database was an Excel spreadsheet because I hadn't figured out Google Contacts yet. I'm not sure Google Contacts was around in
Not,
2000. Do you think?
I don't think so. No.
Probably not, probably not. But the funny thing is, I worked in the city and I lived in Walnut Creek, and everybody I knew was over there or up in Marin because my friend group, when everybody decided to move out of the city, moved to Marin, and I moved to the East Bay because that's where my family was.
Hmm.
So I didn't really have much of a database, but I created one. I put names and addresses into that spreadsheet.
The and then how did you maintain contact with that database?
So the company that I worked, the first broker that I worked for had a don't know what you call it when you can log on and create a postcard. They had postcard templates, and
Oh
all
yeah.
you need to do was fill in whatever verbiage you wanted, whatever headline you wanted, and they had a pre-selected choice of images. So if I was doing a happy Valentine's Day,
Yep.
and then added my contact information, and it went off to a printer, I think in Texas.
Yep.
So does that sound familiar?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. I wasn't lucky enough to work for a broker that had an in-house graphic designer like our broker has. We've got 4 or 5 in-house graphic designers, and we can get custom postcards or custom newsletters or custom anything, which is really kind of an amazing thing. I've never worked for a broker that had that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think what's interesting. So my first broker didn't have in-house. It was the same sort of thing, where we had to type in, use a template, predetermined template. Here's a marketing campaign. Here's the Valentine's Day postcard. Here's the, St. Patrick's Day postcard.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the things that brought me to the brokerage where I met you, where we still are. So having those designers that make things more personalized is great. It's interesting because in our current market, everybody's talking about social media and then, of course, email newsletters. And so you didn't have either of those things. You just had physical addresses.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
my at the beginning of my career, then you were 10 years ahead of me. I assume it was similar for you that the ways that you got new people added to your database was walk-ins and open houses. Is that how you met new clients, or were there other ways that you met new potential clients?
Walk-ins, open houses, sign calls where people drove past a house and saw a sign in front and called me on the telephone, which is kind of amazing. I kind of miss those days. Um, and or the other way was if I had worked with somebody after a few years who thought that I did a good job for them and knew somebody who wanted to buy or sell, they would refer my name to them.
Yeah, yeah,
A bunch different from nowadays.
yeah. So nowadays, and then kind of if you were to take a snapshot of our business right now, we would say that the core of our business sphere of influence is includes email addresses and includes a our digital footprint and social media, and particularly Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're tinkering with TikTok and also YouTube videos like this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes.
And so the way to or the means to expand our sphere of influence is changing pretty regularly. And so it's some of these you got to prioritize channels, metaphorical channels with the people that you know. And so having a physical address and a phone number are one things, having an email address is another, and then connecting with people virtually online. I find that social media for real estate agents is a little oversold, because if you were to go look through most of our contacts on our business page, not our personal page, uh, of the several hundred that like and follow it, the vast majority of them are in the industry. And so if you look through, it's like our broker supports us, our
Uh,
admin supports us, but then a lot of it is just other agents who like us and they follow us, and so they like stuff. So there's a little bit of fool's gold in the amount of activity. But
yeah.
when we share those things on our personal page, all of our contacts are getting to see that. But it's really kind of a passive thing, right? Because it's not something that's addressed directly to the sphere. It's just they see it, it reminds them it's an important part of a marketing. So
Mhm.
we don't really count those social media names, that indirect communication, to be part of our sphere of influence. Is it technically part of our sphere? Yeah, I think you can make an argument there. It's not worthless for sure. But if we were to examine who's potentially in our sphere, or that we might do business with, not our sphere, it's like that would be everybody who lives in Contra Costa, or who wants to live in Contra Costa County.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit of Alameda, a little Solano. I mean, beyond that, but basically Contra Costa County. Well, we can't afford to market to all those people, and so we refer to this, marketing funnel. Like that's everybody. Then below that, you can start reducing it down to to a smaller group. And so it might be, I just work in Walnut Creek. So then you're like, everybody in Walnut Creek. Well, you and I work by referral. We have a much broader base than a city. So we don't limit it by geographic location, but we limit it by people that we know or that might know us. And that's kind of how the next step for us in developing our sphere. But there's other ways you can figure out if you're going to reduce that down to people that are actively buying and selling, which is where doing open houses comes into play. That almost reduces it down too small because those are just people that are acting right now, which is fantastic. You definitely want to be in relationship with those people. But our business involves these longer term relationships. And so we can't, that's a little bit too far jumping down this funnel and reduces it too much. So we kind of need to ratchet it back up. And so some people, someplace between a whole city, maybe they'll do a geographic farm. Did you ever market to a geographic farm?
I did not.
Not
I did.
even Beacon Ridge or Monarch,
I
rather?
did, I did Summit Ridge where I lived for maybe 10 months and
Yeah.
then stopped doing it. I
Yeah.
probably, when I moved from there, I stopped marketing there. I probably should have continued, but
Yeah.
um,
I started to market in the neighborhood where I live, and it's a fairly distinct market. And when you talk about geographic farms, there's some rules of thumb. You want to look for a high turnover neighborhood. You don't want to be in a neighborhood where people just move and stick. That's where you got to do a little data research, go to title companies. So I tried doing that for a little while. There was an agent who already dominated my neighborhood. He doesn't quite dominate it as much now, 15 years later, but at the time, pretty much everybody used him. And so I spent a lot of money and walked the neighborhood, dropped things off on people's doorsteps, and crickets.
wow.
So I made it
You,
a choice. I was going to go ahead.
no, 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 you're finished.
So at that point, I made a choice, a strategic choice to just focus on people that already knew my name, regardless of where they lived, and presumably liked me, and that I could reach out to and establish a potential relationship with. And that really shifted my market or my business and helped my business take off. And it's still, a significant portion of our combined database is the of that group of people that I felt like knew me and liked me and would accept marketing from me. Not sales, but marketing.
So when you got into the business, it was a little bit different because I think social media had come into play where I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Um, so you were farming at one point, and then you decided to focus on your database, the people who know you, like you, trusted you.
Yep.
Was there anything else that you did besides that? I mean, open houses, sign calls had probably gone away. You also started in the recession.
Yeah. So open house is absolutely. I wouldn't say that I personally am excel at that. I make personal contacts, but my posture for most open houses is about selling the house, representing the seller, and I think other people do a better job of splitting that conversation and making sure that they are trying to establish connections with the buyers that are coming in. Um, I think because you and I don't typically double end a transaction where we don't have the same sort of fire around doing that.
Yeah. We
And
also don't like to be salesy, and it feels salesy.
yeah, yeah, but there are tons of agents who are very skillful at that and do it in a way that's very natural for them that I respect. And but I just it it's not my comfort zone. So that's one of the great things about our business that there's more than one way to do real estate.
Absolutely. Find your comfort level and go with it. So
Yeah. So we think so we so what we want for you as new agents to think about is gathering together a list of names and addresses, email addresses and phone numbers of people that you think know and like you. And this could be as small as 15 and as, if you're a really gregarious person and know lots of people, maybe it's, 200. Um,
it could be
it,
more than that.
it could be more. Yeah. Um, and so there's some legality around using people's email addresses. So we're going to encourage you to go research that and not interpret this as you should send emails to everybody that you have an email address for. And there are rules, particularly around harvesting. names and emails from things like school directories or a church directory. You want to read your organization's rules before you just start using them. Kind of the rule of thumb is that if somebody has engaged me in a conversation about real estate or engaged you with a conversation about real estate, then that's somebody that you can add to your email list. But there's nothing restricting your physical mailing to somebody. And so you want to gather all those things together, and then you want to organize them by priority. And Sherry, you've had more experience with this kind of categorizing leads. It's a fairly common thing to do, A, B, C, D type leads. You want to talk about how somebody might prioritize or organize their contacts?
Yeah, the database that I used and eventually transferred from Excel over to Google Contacts, that was in about 2010. I needed a way of keeping track of them so that because they were just alphabetical. And I learned how to apply tags to them. So I could tag the ones who were buyers, I could tag the ones who were sellers. I could keep track of people who that I wanted to drop pop buys to, but still, I didn't have a way to see who was most important and most likely within the next couple of months or couple of weeks to buy a house. And so I had heard about this category where you have a category called of A, B, C, D. A was, I don't remember how this other person did it, but the way I did it was A was somebody who was going to buy a house in the next or sell a house in the next 3 months. B was somebody in the next 3 to 6 months. C was somebody in the next 2 years or year to 2 years. And then D was long term. Like, for example, we have somebody who doesn't want to sell until 2027, but we don't want to lose track of them. So we assign a number to them or a category to them, and we keep track of them that way. And once I did that by using tags on Google Contacts, I could click on the A's, first thing in the morning and say, okay, who do I need to call? Who do I need to send a note to? Who do I need to drop a pop by off or take to lunch? Or just call and say, when do you want to get together and talk about, how we're going to sell your house? And that way I didn't lose anybody. And it has worked beautifully for me. Most people use a CRM for
Yep.
that. We have had a lot of different CRMs at our broker. So we have now switched over to Google Contacts so we can actually have something that's always going to be there for us. Um, and it's interesting that when we're training someone or coaching someone, it's the thing that they hate to do. I feel like the harbinger of doom every time I say, okay, we're going to work on your database. Nobody wants to work on their database. And it is the thing that is the basis of their business. These are the people who are going to keep you in business and buy and sell from you and refer other friends and family to you. You've got to do your database.
For those not paying attention to what CRM is, it's a client relationship management.
Yeah.
So it and to have your friends and family think that you're managing them, you're related to them, does feel a little bit icky. So I think CRM is so much more palatable, but I like database.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You
but
can
yeah,
call
like,
it your database, CRM. There's a number of words for
different
it. So,
ways to talk about it. Yeah.
but it's really
Um,
cool.
So I tried to learn that, and I'm a little bit too concrete for that. My brain,
ABCD.
yeah, right. I need something more to hold on to. And so my what I determined was, if you got an email address for somebody, you're going to send them a newsletter, assuming that they want to receive real
Mhm.
estate information from you, and that's free. And I will send that email to any email address I have that falls into that category, regardless of whether they're A, B, C, D, or whatever. And usually, what I say to clients, there's actually a new form from CAR that represents a privacy law that says we cannot sell anybody in the transactions information to a third party. But and then I usually say, but we're going to spam you for the rest of your life. And I try to make a joke out of it, and we'll come back to why I don't feel
People
like we're
usually laugh.
They usually laugh,
Nervously.
nervously laugh. We'll come back to why it's not spam, but um, so those are those are I'm going to say the equivalent of C's because if you're in our database, you probably have given us your email address,
Yeah.
and we're going to send you a monthly. And for us, the rhythm is monthly, except December, newsletter about what's happening in the market, something about home ownership, etc. And then the next level of people, I'm willing to spend some money on you, but not a lot of money on you. So I feel like my relationship with you is strong enough that that there's a better likelihood. So like the newsletter, I may not have any confidence the person's going to use me. So as long as we've started the relationship, I'm going to keep it going, even if I'm not sure you'll ever do a transaction with us. But
Well,
at
there's
the
also people in there that we've done business with already, and we just want to keep them top of mind.
But they may have moved out of the area and
Right.
they don't live here, but they might have somebody lives locally that still does. So we want to maintain relationship with them.
Yeah.
The second level, a little, I'm willing to spend some money, but not a lot. And this is the people that what it looks like is that we'll mail you a postcard. We have a physical address, and we don't have physical address for some of the people that we have email addresses for, and vice versa. Sometimes some people we only have physical addresses for, or we haven't been given permission to send them a newsletter
Yeah.
to use their email address. And so that represents the cost of a postcard monthly, about $1.50 a postcard for production and postage. And then the people that I feel strongest about our relationship with, those are most recent closed transactions, people who are very good at referring us to their friends and family. Like I want these people to know that we love them, and so there would be the equivalent of my A's, and those are people that will spend money for pop buys, and all the past clients get invited to um, things like a pie party or other
Other events.
client events, and that we're willing to invest financially more in those people. So you can organize it however you works for you. It could be kind of a time priority, like Sherry was describing. For me, it's a budget priority. But
Really the
again,
same thing.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're doing it together, so of course we're.
Yes.
Um, so it's kind of that priority. So I think one of the reasons why you were mentioning that people that new agents are reticent, I was reticent to market to my friends and family because, well, I'll just say it. I only want to market the way I want to be marketed to, and I don't want to be marketed to,
Right.
right? I mean, you don't want to, the person who's selling, fill in the direct sales item behind that, right? And you know that when they call you to for coffee, it could just be because they're good friends and they want to have coffee.
Yeah.
But you also, in the back of your mind, are wondering, are they going to ask you to buy Tupperware? Does anybody sell Tupperware anymore? Does that company even exist?
Don't know. I don't know. But I remember the day you had Tupperware parties.
Yeah, Tupperware parties, exactly. Um, and did you ever have that feeling like it was a little icky to market to your friends and family, or is I feel like you did such a good job of, you had more opportunities outside of your sphere to do business, but
Yeah, I don't remember feeling hesitant about it. I looked at it as a way to let people know that I was in real estate. A lot of people on my database in the beginning were people who were never going to buy a house in Contra Costa County, but they needed to know that I'd made a transition from advertising to real estate, and they might know someone who was going to want to buy in Contra Costa County, and they would remember me and send them to me. That really was my sole purpose for that.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel icky. I was picking up clients other ways.
Well, that's interesting just to remember, as you just alluded to, that the purpose of the database isn't just for the direct buyer and seller, but also referrals and people that they might know. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. We have one client, we've never sold her a house directly, but she has referred a dozen probably people to us over the years,
Including both her children.
both of her children, yes, as well. So pretty soon we'll be selling them to her grandchildren. So
Yeah, that's a few. I hope that we're retired before some of those grandkids are old enough to buy a house. But
that
okay,
is that is true. One can only
maybe.
So, or else we'll
But
be using a walker to show houses. So,
yeah. Well, going back to whether you're spamming your friends and family, because that would be a little bit gross. Um, there's a couple turning points in my career, and Sherry, you can chime in if you when you've had similar turning points. But initially, I didn't know I didn't know about really how to do real estate. I didn't feel like I knew enough to really be proud of myself to market myself. And I think that's pretty common because as a new agent, you really don't know anything. And some of our other podcasts will address issues about how to get more experience and make yourself more valuable.
yeah.
But there was one transaction that I had after I'd been in the business for a little while, so I did have some knowledge. And this was somebody who I knew from another trusted relationship, and they needed a lot of help and guidance. And I had a unique opportunity to help them
Mhm.
and use some skills that maybe weren't exactly my real estate skills to help. But they were definitely part of the package of what I did for her. And I helped her. She was trying to move to her assisted living and she needed to sell her place. And I I think I made her about 120,000 extra because she worked with me because of some inside stuff that I could do.
Wow.
And I felt so good about that my self-perception about what I was capable of really shifted.
Yeah.
And I became more confident, not just that, hey, I can do this, but I became more confident that I would have been upset if somebody else had helped her and didn't do that for her. And you become then protective of your friends and family. Like, I really want you to use me because there's enough less than professional agents out there, and you desperately don't want your friends and family to work with one of those agents. So this is where we kind of in the opening fumbled through the professionalism and passion. These two things come together. I recognize that some of my professional skills were invaluable to my client, and the more you develop and nurture your professional skills, knowledge, that whole package of things that you bring to the table, the more valuable you will be to your friends friends and family. And if your passion is to help your friends and family and not to make money off of them, then there's the stuff that you use to market won't sound swarmy or snake oilsy or used car salesy. It'll be I'll say desperate. Your desperation that they know good advice about buying and selling real estate. So that was the original turning point. Um, and
So
then
you became someone who cared about your client and serviced them, so to speak. Um, not, yeah, that sounds kind of creepy, but you know what I mean. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
more,
yeah, yeah.
how can I help you instead of, hey, let's close this deal so I can get paid, you
My
know?
priority wasn't to close the transaction. My priority was for her to get the best result.
Right, right.
And when you can approach it that way, shakes a lot of things loose in this business as a career.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second kind of turning point with me is now I have two adult children, and I fantasize about one of them soon buying their own place. Although that got sidetracked this last week. Apparently, grad school's the thing to do, and
Uh-huh.
but I was envisioning what kind of agent or advice I hope they got from their local market. Obviously, not obviously, they don't live in California, so I can't be their agent.
Right.
But what is it that I wish somebody was telling my child who may or may not listen to as an adult, their parent, right? I mean, this is where at some point you have to wait for your children to ask you things. Unlike when they were children, you could do stuff, but as adults, you parent differently. So, what are the questions I'm hoping she's asking an agent someplace else? And what is the advice I'm hoping they're giving? And boy, did that really elevate my sense of what I wanted to say and what we say in our newsletter and postcards and other advertising is what do I wish somebody was telling my child about buying and selling and home inspections and insurance and features of a house and whatever else. Uh, do you have thoughts about that before I kind of go to the punchline?
I do. I've actually been in that situation because my mom had to do a short sale during the recession, and she lived in San Joaquin County. And one thing, she was out of my area. And the other thing was you were only allowed you short sales had to be an arm's length transaction, so you couldn't be related to the person who needed to do the short sale. So I found her an agent who came highly recommended. And the whole time it was going on, I was saying to my mom, she said, "What?" Because she worked so differently than I
Yeah.
did. I did a ton of short sales. I would have loved to have done that short sale. It would have been a different experience for my mom because this agent just didn't work the way I worked, you know. She
Yeah.
told my mom she'd get her a rent back so she didn't have to be out the day that it closed, and that didn't happen. There were all kinds of little things, but I've had that experience that you are talking about with your kids. So
Yeah. So this all goes back to not spamming, even though I made a joke about spamming our clients.
mhm,
But we believe, Sherry and I, in our monthly newsletter and in our postcard and other communications, we believe so much in the value of what we're sharing that we're not embarrassed that it might come across that way. We are confident that if we've made a mistake and overstepped on say a newsletter email address, we felt that they had engaged us in real estate, and so we were sending them information, and maybe we misunderstood it. We feel so good about the information we're sending that we don't think anyone would be upset at receiving it. And we have almost 500 people receiving our newsletter and have been receiving our newsletter for almost a decade now. And occasionally people unsubscribe and they
don't take
uh,
it personally.
but yeah, and we don't take it personally. It may have just shifted, but it's it's a and our open rate, being able to monitor our open rate is just continues to be very high level and much higher than the industry as a whole, according to Constant Contact. I don't know that for independent research. And we attribute that to the quality of information. So that's one of the things you got to think about as you're building your database, improving your quality of knowledge so that what you're putting out is actually valuable to the people that you're sending it to and you're not bothering. And then there's, Sherry and I actually have a slightly different view on one aspect of it, in that I tend to be really light on my ask, on my quote unquote call to action. Um, and Sherry sometimes needs to remind me, we actually want them to do something and it's okay to ask. But, but I'm so, yeah, I'm so move away from the salesy thing. I forget that it's actually not very salesy. It's, hey, if you want some help buying or selling, call us. I mean, that's not exactly how we word it, but it's okay to offer our services after we've given this good information.
Absolutely. I mean, people depend on us for not just to help them buy and sell houses, but we get calls all the time with questions about insurance, or do you know a roofer, or, what's the best way to do who knows what. And those are all good calls as well. We're glad they reach out to us.
Yeah.
Uh, and I wanted to say, when you said when people are unsubscribing, we've had clients call and say, "I love you guys. I would never use anybody but you don't have to send me a newsletter every month."
Right, right, yeah, yeah.
And that's
And actually, one of those guys just used us. He said, "You don't need to send me that anymore." And then, like 6 months later, called us to help him sell a house. So it does true. People just they're cleaning up their inbox.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, just double down on that for a moment. We intentionally don't do postcards or newsletters in December, which might seem counterintuitive because everybody's sending out holiday greetings.
Mhm.
And I have a couple of reasons for it. I'm not sure that Sherry and I had a full discussion about this when we started partnering. I just said, I'm not going to do it. Um, yeah, so sometimes one of us is more stubborn on something than the other. This is my thing. But it eases the pressure to navigate holiday greetings in
Yeah,
December,
yeah.
and trying to thread that needle between what might be authentic for Sherry or for myself or for any particular client, as we have clients from multiple different faith groups or none. Um, so we kind of alleviate the pressure on that. Second, um, everybody else is sending stuff out all the time in December, both as emails and as physical mailings, as you know, right? And so, why spend money on a postcard that's might get buried in a circular and just go straight in the recycling without being seen? And to be honest, our postcard We're only betting on 3 seconds. We're just hoping somebody sees the front, the nice image we use, and flip it over and sees our faces and our names and then
Yeah,
puts it in the recycling. 3 seconds is all we're hoping for. And we might not even get that if we send it in December. And the newsletter, I don't know about you, but I get so tired of all the emails that I get in December that start actively unsubscribing to anything that might be remotely uninteresting to me.
yeah,
And I don't want to be caught up in somebody else doing that same thing. Because once you've been deleted once they've unsubscribed you, it's illegal for you to market to them again.
yeah,
And I'd hate to get caught up in a mass clearinghouse when in reality, very few people are looking in December to buy or sell.
yeah, yeah. Agree 100%.
Yeah. So there's various ways that once you've established your database, you can organize it however you want. Regular contact with your database is important, and you can decide how you want to do that. We'll address that in other podcasts. Um, the how do you add people to your database? And I think there were times in my younger career where people said you needed to be adding, I forget, like 5 people to your database every week.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not meeting 5 new people a week. Are you meeting 5 new people a week?
No, probably not.
I'm
Maybe at open houses if you're actively soliciting, maybe
I'm
putting a sign-up sheet.
That's
But yeah,
exhausting just thinking about it.
yeah, I know. Some people don't have a problem with that. Um, I've never found those kind of leads to be very worthwhile. Um, Not good, nice, good, warm leads like we normally have from our database our, of clients who've worked with us before or plan to work with us before. So I
But
don't
I
know.
think for newer agents, I think that they need to attend to that. I mean, you and I have, you know, 500 plus names and so we can live off that. But if somebody's only got a database of 50, they need to figure out how to add names to that sphere. And
At one point, when I partnered with you, I only had 150 people in my database, and it produced like crazy.
yeah,
Only 150,
yeah,
but it was curated so well that I knew who should be there and who shouldn't be there.
yeah, yeah. I mine's probably got a little fat on it that can come off. But I do think that open houses is still a way to do that. One of the ways that the rules have changed around BRBCs and required sign-in sheets, you
Mhm.
have the ability to gather people's information, but you should have it listed on the sign-in sheet or on a sign next to it. May I send you information. And then once you've gathered that information, you can, assuming that you've warned them, you can then add them to your email list, and that's a good way to get it. But Sherry's right; those people don't know you. Hopefully, you develop a relationship with them at the open house. People buy leads. This is a little bit more controversial, not controversial, a little bit more, I don't know, not as desired way of doing it, but you can check out Zillow or Realtor.com or some of those places. We get calls and emails all the time. We find them to not be a good way to spend money, but people do it. So you could explore that. Sherry and I aren't experienced enough in this area because it didn't work for us. So we probably can't help you with that, but you could explore. That's some way to do it. Um, Holding events. So one idea that I had at an open house one time was I did a twilight tour for a neighborhood, um, kind of as a coming soon, like it was going to be on the market that weekend, but I invited all the neighbors to come on Tuesday night for wine and cheese. And I told them to bring their postcard because I got their, in that case, I bought their emails off from the title company. I did
Yeah,
they provided all the neighborhood emails, sends it out. So bring your postcard to win whatever the raffle prize was, right?
yeah.
And so in the wording there was that if you enter, then I get to email you. You got to include your database, and so you have to agree. I mean, that's
It's a
eh,
great idea.
it's a little manipulative, but people are opting in. They can come to the open house without the postcard. They only had to bring the postcard if they wanted to be entered into the raffle. So you can do stuff like that.
Did that work? And what was the prize?
Um,
You pick up any clients?
I picked up names. I don't know whether any of those people were. I don't think I did. I don't think I got any. I think I'd remember, but
Yeah. And what was the
uh,
price?
um, I think like $50 to a restaurant or something.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
That's good.
Other client events, like there was an agent that Sherry used to mentor, who held a buyer's night at a restaurant in town, at a bar restaurant in town, and that she made an arrangement with the bar that she'd pick up a tab on, so many people, and the people would come and chat with her and give her their information, and she was an exceptional agent.
Yeah.
And I don't miss the competition that she moved out of the area because she was a rock star. I think she was like
Got
nominated
clients,
for
right?
the CAR Rock Star Award. But
Absolutely.
she did that advertising on social media. This is where I'll be. This is, come join me. First drink is on me. I mean, that could be kind of expensive. How expensive beer is these days, um, but she
You
made a
have to
lot of
spend
contacts.
money.
I'm sorry.
You have to spend money to make money, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
She was willing to do that. She picked up business that way.
Yeah. So these are just a couple of ideas, right? This is creative for you to figure out what is your niche. How are you going to meet more people? It might be, from a parent club or your kids' sporting activities, or maybe your faith community or some other activity where you're meeting people, and you learn to have those conversations that are about what you're doing, but without it being salesy. So.
Mhm.
All right. Any other thoughts about curating your database and ways to organize it and what you might do?
So I have a confession to make.
Oh no.
We talked about my database when I first got into the business, my Excel spreadsheet, and how
Yep.
every so often I would send out a Valentine's postcard or a, you know, fall, spring forward, fall back postcard. But I wasn't picking up business that way, so I didn't have a regular marketing plan, and I started in an upswing of a market. So I wasn't actively using my database to market to get business because I was getting business somewhere else,
Yep.
right? Walk-ins, sign calls, ad calls, open houses. Um, and 2008 happened. The real estate market and the world economy imploded, and my business came to a halt. And it wasn't until, and what I realized at the time was I had never been taught to do marketing. I had this database, but nobody taught me how to do marketing. They taught me how to sell real estate. And I mean, I got great training. People have
Yep.
heard my story before, but nobody taught me how to do marketing. It wasn't until 2010 I met, it's okay to say her name, right? I met another agent named Terry Lynn,
Oh
and she
yeah.
goes, "What's your marketing plan?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What's my marketing plan?" She's like, "How do you reach out to your clients?" And it's like, I can't afford to reach out to my clients. We're in the middle of a recession. She's like, you've got to reach out to your clients. And it's kind of amazing that almost 10 years in, with an established database, that I was not marketing to them. And I mean, I almost did not survive the recession. And so if you have a database, you need to use it to market to them. Don't do what I did. I mean, in this market, we're in a completely different market, but that is the vehicle by which you reach out to your clients and hopefully pick up business. It took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really the bedrock of our regular business. This is, if you were to look at our business over the last several years, it's been very steady, while other people's have gone up and down, mainly because most of our business comes from our sphere
Yeah,
and we touch them regularly with good information.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think that's why when we're coaching someone, I'm so adamant about I need to see your database. Go home and work on your database.
Yeah.
Bring in your database and let me know how far you've gotten on it. And people are like, "Oh, I don't want to work on my database."
Yeah. Both it's tedious and well, okay, here you made a confession. Here's my confession to the whole audience. So
Okay.
you need to go through your database once a year and clean it up, meaning checking to see whether all those people still live at those physical addresses. Occasionally, every year or so, there's somebody who used somebody else to sell and we didn't catch it. And so we eliminate them from our database. Sherry is the one that does that. She painstakingly go through that because with my attention issues, to be able to sit down and go through the 500 plus and for accuracy, I just glaze over.
Yes,
So,
I started at the middle of November this year, going through 544 names.
yeah,
There were probably more because we eliminated a bunch of people
yeah,
this year. But it took me until the first week in July for me to finish that.
yeah.
It's a big,
So,
but
yeah,
you don't want to be sending postcards to someone who doesn't live at that address anymore, right?
no, yeah, you're wasting money.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so you got to maintain it. All right. Well, I think that the last thing I'm going to say before we sign off is if you're listening to this near the publication date in the beginning of February 26th, we are doing an agent training later this month, February 25th at 10:30 to noon. Lunch is not included, unless you want to buy it for us. And it's going to be at our Walnut Creek office. And we're going to be talking about agent intelligence, the real AI. And it's gonna we're building tools so that we don't sound like we're salesy. And we kind of alluded to that's a value that we have, but we're gonna do a workshop where we're gonna address it. So be sure to check in with us about that location, and we'll make sure to save you a spot.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
John Wooden was right. If you don't work, nothing will. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye.